Unfortunately, the city of Oakland continues to be plagued by gun violence. This is the fourth Monday news conference this month that I've held to address the extreme amount of violence that we've seen, and this weekend is no different. Sadly, we are coming off the heels of the deadliest month and the deadliest week that we've had all year. I'm afraid our community is becoming numb to this horrific behavior. 6 homicides in the past 4 days. It's incomprehensible. When I became chief, I promised to collaborate with the faith-based partners. Today, I'm joined by several of Oakland's clergy. Reverend Demita Davis Howard, Father Jason Lindeza, Pastor Hopkins, and Pastor Dixon. I'll start off capturing what we experienced over the last 4 days in Oakland. On Thursday, August 25th, just around 5:30 p.m., officers responded to a ShotSpotter call in the 2400 block of 64th Avenue. Upon arrival, officers located a male adult Oakland resident suffering from gunshot wounds. Life-saving measures were attempted. However, the victim was pronounced deceased at the scene. The victim was later ID'd as Isaiah Sanchez, 19 years old. We are following up on all leads and asking for the community's help in identifying the person responsible for this shooting. On Friday, August 26th, just after 7:15 p.m., officers were dispatched to a ShotSpotter call in the 2800 block of Martin Luther King Jr. Way. Upon arrival, officers located 2 individuals suffering from gunshot wounds, as well as a bicyclist who had been struck by a vehicle. All 3 individuals were pronounced deceased on the scene. The names of the victims are followed. Devin Woodfox, 36 years old. Tyron Banks, 46 years old. Tanel Williams, 48 years old. I had an opportunity to come to this scene, and what a horrific scene it was. It's unfortunate that community and others have to suffer such violence. A triple homicide, 3 people losing their lives in one incident. We have some leads that we're following up on related to this homicide. Obviously one that is terribly concerning to see an innocent person who was uninvolved in anything be struck by a vehicle as he's just riding his bicycle. It's terrible. On Saturday, August 27th, just before 9:30 a.m., officers responded to the 600 block of Sycamore Street on a report of a person shot. Upon arrival, officers located a male adult Oakland resident suffering from gunshot wounds. He was inside of a vehicle. The victim was pronounced deceased on the scene. The victim has been ID'd as Maurice Wilson. On Sunday, August 28th, at 1:30 a.m., officers responded to the 2400 block of Park Boulevard on a report of a vehicle collision. Upon arrival, officers located a male suffering from apparent gunshot wounds. The victim was pronounced deceased on the scene. The victim was later ID'd as Capri Anderson, 22 years old. This is the city of Oakland's 83rd homicide of the year. It's 2 less than we were at this same time last year at 85. My clergy partners are here with me today as we call on community to come together, to ask people to put down the guns, remove the firearms from our community, ask people to care a little bit more about each other, care a little bit more about our community. Firearms are overwhelming our community. To date, the Oakland Police Department has recovered over 1,000 firearms already this year. That is compared to last year where we only recovered 800 at this same time. It's a 30% increase in recovery of firearms in a year period. And it just goes to demonstrate the number of firearms that we have in our community. Our latest incident I want to speak to that we just are continuing to investigate today. At 1:30 p.m., officers responded to a shooting of a 13-year-old at Madison Junior High School in the 400 block of Capistrano Drive. Officers were able to quickly and safely take the shooter into custody as well as provide medical aid to the student. We have recovered the firearm as well. Sadly, gun violence is impacting our schools as well. You have heard from me over the last several weeks about a number of shootings and incidents that have happened at our schools and at our playgrounds. This is impacting every area in our city. Nobody is immune from this level of gun violence. It's going to take all of our efforts to reduce gun violence in Oakland. Some people are arguing that it's a resource issue or that it is a police department issue. This is a people issue. There are people in our community who are picking up guns and shooting people. There is no excuse. There is no finger to point at. It's not the police department. It is people in our community who have become unable to solve conflict without using firearms. And that's sad because it's leaving so much trauma in this community. When I was on the scene Friday night of the triple homicide and Father Jason Lindeza was there with me, so many people watching, so many people hurt, so many people scared and afraid. This has to stop. And I hope that as we hear from our clergy that we understand that it's a call for peace in our city, it's a call to action by everybody, but it's a call to put down these guns and stop this violence. It is causing us too much pain, and our community is being destroyed by this level of violence. And with that, I'll have Father Jason Lindeza come up and speak to what he's experienced over the last couple of days.
Thank you, Chief. When Chief and I were on that scene on Friday night, we kind of looked at each other and said, I wish we knew the answer to this. I wish we had a solution for this. I know that I can speak for Reverend Demita and Pastor Hopkins and Pastor Dixon, that each and every one of us on a fairly regular basis walk with families that lose loved ones. It's not unusual for many of us to be called on homicide scenes or to work with homicide victims' families. And we see firsthand the pain that these families are going through. And there's a part of us that want to respond somehow and somewhere. But I know for all the work that we do, a lot of us are invited to do a number of things, to be present to the pain that families are facing and to find ways to invite our fellow Oakland residents to put down the guns and find some ways of peacefully resolving these situations. No words can come to explain the pain that we see on a fairly regular basis about what we experience here in the streets of Oakland. What we want to do is to find some systematic way of providing that kind of healing as best we can. We pray that our Oakland residents will also find ways and decisions that they can make to help bring peace to our streets as well, too. Thank you.
Thank you, Father. And now I'll have Pastor Hopkins come and speak.
How many more times, how many more Monday afternoons will we gather here and lament the violence of a weekend? We must lament, though. No life should be unmourned. Thank you, Chief, for lifting up the names. These are human beings. We must mourn them, lament the loss. In the Christian tradition, when we come up against grave evil, we say there must be recognition, there must be repentance, turning, and there must be reparation, some effort taken to repair the wound. And the wound of the city of Oakland is grievous. We've proven, as a city, we have the ability to destroy one another. There's no doubt about that. The repair, we must turn and find ways to bless one another, especially our young people and their families. There is a partial answer. We work the Ceasefire program. We invite those in most likelihood to commit violence to come to the table and find another way. And we need to recommit to that. But right now we need to lament, to look at each other and say, we can do better. We don't need to destroy each other. Let's get creative and finding ways to bless each other, and it starts with putting the guns down. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor. And I just want to invite up Pastor Billy Dixon, who helps co-chair our Ceasefire committee with me. And last week, we had a Ceasefire call-in meeting to meet with individuals at the highest risk of being involved in gun violence. Our efforts to address gun violence is ongoing every single day. People ask, what is the plan? We know the ceasefire strategy works. We know that focused enforcement works. The gun recoveries are demonstrating that we are taking guns off the streets. But there's more guns than we can get to. There are more people willing to commit violence than we can get to. Pastor Dixon, please, you could come up and share just the work that we're doing with the ceasefire strategy.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, fellow clergy. We're doing a great work. Just today we were out trying to talk to young men and women that are involved in violence, whether victims or perpetrators of violence. We were out talking to them today, trying to offer them another way to come out of this. And I want to say this, if the Chief allow me. I'm inviting every church, synagogue, mosque leader to come out and help us, because we can't do it without you. We need to be one, united across this city. We need to offer our men a real chance, and at the same time, back up our police force when necessary, when they abuse that chance of making it right. I just want to let you know that I'm open, I'm free, I'm there for you. If you want to change, you can contact me at Thy Word Christian Center, and we'll work it out. I'll make the contacts. I'll talk to who we need to talk to. You can drop that gun off, and I'll call the police myself and turn that gun over. We want you at this time to be free. We want you to be alive, and we want you to know we love you. Thank you, Chief.
These press conferences are a sober reminder of how much pain that people are experiencing in Oakland, and I get it. I understand the fear. I understand the concern. But we'll do this together, and I thank the clergy for coming out and partnering with me. I thank those community members that come out and volunteer on night walks every Friday in our community. I appreciate those that everywhere they see me across the city say, Chief, I'm a champion for you. I want to see difference in Oakland. Well, this is the time to not only say you want to see difference, to actually do something about it. And you can. You can come out and support us. You can come out and help us address violence. But most importantly, you can tell your friends and family who pick up guns and go out the house every day, not knowing if they're going to return, that they don't have to do it, that there's another way, that they can put the guns down, that they don't have to engage in violence. And I want to appreciate the Department of Violence Prevention, who's been right there with us, supporting us as we try to help people make different decisions. Their work has been key as well, trying to prevent people from retaliating, trying to prevent people from engaging in violence. And so just want to appreciate the work that they do as well. With that, I'll take any questions.
Chief, could you speak on potentially any of these incidents being related to one another, or is that something that the investigation has yet to determine?
Well, we know that the triple homicide definitely is something that we're looking into. There is definitely connection between all three deaths. We obviously know that it originally started off as a shooting. There was then a retaliatory shooting, and then unfortunately there was a vehicle that was out of control and struck the bicyclist. So we do know the connections. There are some pieces that we're still looking into because there are outstanding suspects in that particular case that we need to identify. And in the coming days, we will be releasing more information on what we're looking for within that investigation. So yes, we also, have some concerns about the homicide on 64th Avenue. Our ceasefire teams, our clergy teams are working to provide more what we call custom notifications to individuals connected to that victim. We want to make sure that that homicide doesn't lead to a bunch of retaliatory shootings. And that's really what our ceasefire strategy is designed to do, is to prevent these retaliatory shootings that occur when we see a shooting like that occur. So we are using every lever that we have. We're pulling it from enforcement to clergy and community to support and services. It's all hands on deck right now. We're doing everything we can from every city department that we can call on for help. And I think hopefully we see some progress soon. But It's been a very tough month for us.
In terms of another case happened last week, the dentist in Canada.
Yeah.
So how's the investigation going? Any information?
Yeah, we're making progress on the investigation and from the homicide in Little Saigon. Obviously, that obviously had a traumatic impact on the community as well, and they're still reeling from that. So we are making some headway in that investigation, and hopefully, in the near future, we'll be able to share something.
With the shooting that occurred earlier today at school, is there any information you guys can release as to the suspect, what the motive was behind the shooting?
We still don't know what the exact motive of that shooting was. We know that two students, that we know there was a firearm on campus, and we know that two students were involved. We know one had a firearm, and we know one was struck by a firearm. I think we're early in the investigation. The student who was struck by the gunfire is at the hospital being treated for his injuries. He's in stable condition at this time, and so we hope he makes a full recovery. The young man that was involved in the shooting, we are still investigating the circumstances on what happened. But it saddens me to even think that a kid would bring a gun to school, and that gun obviously would obviously come out and impact another student on campus. No parent wants to send their kids to school in a day and then be called saying your kid's been shot. It's the worst thing that you can hear. As a parent, I couldn't imagine getting that call. But there's far too many guns on our streets, and it's only a matter of time before incidents like this happen. We have to do better. When parents see firearms, when relatives, friends see firearms, they need to call us. They need to call us. They need to remove them. They need to turn them in. Get these firearms out the hands of these kids so that we don't have tragic incidents like we had today. Thank God it wasn't more tragic.
We appreciate the work of Ceasefire and DVP. Are there any other resources that the Oakland Police Department can recommend to Oakland residents when it comes to learning about conflict resolution?
That's some of the work that the Department of Violence Prevention is engaged in, contracting with community-based organizations to provide that kind of support, whether we're talking about conflict resolution or we're talking about some type of healing circles, if we're talking about restorative justice. Those are the organizations that are being funded by DVP and others, but they're doing the work. And so there is those organizations out there that are available. One of the things that we've done here at the Oakland Police Department is create a position called the Victim Liaison Specialist. And really what she does, Ms. Bridget Cook, is really help people who have been victims of violence and their family members, help them get the support and resources that they need from the county and from other community-based organizations or even DVP. So we are trying to strengthen our connection with the victims and their families to make sure we give them the support that they need.
Okay, so I hear that in particular addresses or supports like victims.
Mm-hmm.
What are the incentives for Oakland residents to put guns down? Because it seems like a lot of this stuff is retaliatory and fear-based. So do you guys have any like insight to how we can break that cycle of fear that's happening in the city?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I would hope that we don't have to incentivize people to not kill each other, right? It's my hope that at some point we can begin to value life and to understand how final death is. And so for so many families, if you come out, and you experience that, it is a traumatic experience just by watching. When a family shows up to a scene and finds out that their loved one has been killed, it has an emotional impact on you. It has an emotional impact on my officers. Officers have watched 83 homicide scenes. They're impacted as well, dealing with people who are going through that experience, the screaming, the yelling, the emotion, understandable emotion. It's difficult for the officers too. And so as we increase services to our officers as well, one of the things that we oftentimes don't talk about is the stress and trauma that they're dealing with. And the fact that we've seen a huge increase in the services that they've been in need of as a result of the things that they've experienced. And so it is impacting everybody. the community, the officers that are responding. I'm sure the other public safety officials, whether you're talking about fire department personnel or you're talking about EMT personnel. I mean, everybody's experiencing this trauma. This is really tough, and so I hope that people understand that this is a time. I hope that we can communicate to those that we love the most. I oftentimes say to people, you don't have to go to a funeral to give people flowers or tell them you love them. You can do it before. You can show them love by saying, I'm gonna help you stay alive and free. Those two things, which we talk about in our ceasefire strategy. Yeah.
You asked a very important question. Let me give you a limited insight that I have. I sit on the Safety and Service Commission for Measure Z, and sitting on there, there's plenty program, there's life coaching, there's things that intervene before they get to this section of shooting, before they get to law enforcement actions, before all that comes in. There's a lot of things that are going on through the Department of Violence Prevention. They have a program called The Table, and it has 3 legs or 4 legs, parts of it, and they're using all 4 parts of those to do prevention work before it even gets to the police, before it even gets to law enforcement, before it even gets to the chief or the captains or the assistant chief's desk. We are doing that work right now. That work is part of the work I was talking about earlier. I just want you to understand that they have an enforcement agreement, that if they don't do what we ask in the community, if they don't go take the life services, at least put the guns down and stop shooting. But if they continue to shoot, then we expect Chief Armstrong to do his job. But that's after everything is offered. So don't think it's just a heavy-handed police enforcement, because Chief know that I'm one of those ones who will come to him and let him know. I just want you to get an understanding of a bigger picture of what it looks like. This is the aftermath. This is after we've talked to him. This is after we knocked on the door. This is after we told you to put down the gun. This is after we made several attempts to go to your home. This is after all those things takes place. This is after offering you the life coach, offering you to go to boss, offering you to go to this job, offering you to get help, mental health help. I'm very big on mental health help. Get you mentally straight, because sometimes everybody's not ready for a job. This is after all this taking place. If you continue to pick up a gun, then we expect Oakland Police Department to do their job.